Oppenheimer. It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
So we had to do a deep dive on this one. We got a ton of requests from you listeners out there.
Yeah.
About this movie.
It's huge.
It is. I mean, come on. It's awards, box office, the whole shebang, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to break it all down, right? What is it about this particular biopic? Because those of us who've seen a lot of movies, especially historical biopics,
Sure.
sometimes they can be a little,
Yeah. A little stuffy.
a little stuffy. And we got an expert here who's going to help us break it all down.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you're here. So what we're really looking at is this excerpt about the movie Oppenheimer and what makes it so special,
Right. And I think it's more than just a biopic, right? It delves into the man, the science, but also the morality.
Oh, yeah.
The burden of his creation. That's what's really resonating with people, I think.
Yeah, and let's not forget, it's based on this book,
Oh, yeah.
American Prometheus.
Pulitzer Prize-winning. Not just some,
Right, this is not just some Hollywood screenwriter
Exactly.
whipping this up.
Yeah.
I mean, this has some serious weight behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who haven't seen it, maybe give us a little, I don't know, is outline the right word? What's the gist?
Sure, yeah. So it basically follows Oppenheimer's journey from his early days as a physicist all the way to leading the Manhattan Project at Los Alamos.
Right.
And, of course, culminating in the creation of the atomic bomb. But it's not a straight line.
No. And this is one of the things that I think is really interesting, because one of the things the excerpt mentions is the way the film is structured.
Yes.
They use color and black and white,
Right.
in a really unique way.
Yeah, it's non-linear. So you'll have, say, like a scene from his personal life,
Yeah.
right, in vivid color.
Right.
And then it cuts to, say, a historical event, a meeting about the bomb, and it's stark black and white.
And it's not even like they're using it to differentiate, like, oh, this was the past
Right.
and this is the present. It's more like,
It's more about the weight, the personal versus the historical.
yeah.
You really feel the weight of his decision.
Yeah. It's almost like his subjective experience.
Exactly. Like when they show the Trinity test,
Oh, yeah.
it's in black and white, even though obviously color film existed then. But it's like, the world changed color for him in that moment,
Yeah. So it's such a powerful visual metaphor. And speaking of things that add weight and depth, we've got to talk about these relationships, right? I mean, Oppenheimer wasn't just working in a vacuum.
Absolutely not. You've got his wife, Katherine, who is a really strong presence in his life.
Kitty.
Kitty, yes. And then there's Jean Tatlock, his former lover, which brings in this whole other dimension.
And, I mean, you can't talk about Oppenheimer without talking about the political climate, right?
Absolutely. This is the McCarthy era.
McCarthyism.
Paranoia, suspicion everywhere, and Oppenheimer, with his past ties to leftist groups.
Right. And this is where General Groves and Lewis Strauss, these are big players in the story, especially Strauss. He kind of becomes this, I don't want to say villain.
Antagonist, for sure.
Antagonist. There you go. Yeah. And, reading about this period, it's crazy.
It's intense. Imagine just a hint of communist sympathy could ruin you.
Yeah.
And for someone in Oppenheimer's position, the stakes were even higher.
And the film doesn't shy away from the consequences, right? I mean, this is a guy who helped unleash this unimaginable power onto the world.
Exactly. And that's what I think makes him such a tragic figure, this internal struggle, the weight of what he'd done.
Yeah. Because he doesn't just create the bomb and then, walk off into the sunset.
No, he becomes a vocal advocate for arms control, warns against nuclear proliferation, tries to, in a way, atone for what he'd unleashed.
Almost like he's trying to put the genie back in the bottle.
Exactly. And that's impossible, right? Once that knowledge is out there.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
And do you think that's part of why this film is hitting a nerve now? Because we're dealing with similar things today, right? Like with AI, for example.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we're all grappling with the responsibility of these incredible technological advances. Where do we draw the line?
Exactly.
And the film doesn't offer easy answers. It just poses these huge, uncomfortable questions, which honestly I think is more powerful.
It makes you think.
All right.
And isn't that, that's the mark of a good film.
Absolutely. It stays with you.
So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And if you really want to, go deep, dive into the book, American Prometheus.
For sure.
It's a lot, but it's worth it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is great. And to all you listeners out there, we'll catch you next time. Stay curious.